you look at what the Islanders have tried to do in free agency is they tried to get rid of contracts, which they've done. They got rid of Andrew Ladd. They gave up a couple of draft picks. Boychuk is still on, but they're going to probably one way or another move Boychuk's contract because he's on IR. He's never coming back with his eye injury. And also trading Leddy the way they did after the season was over. The Islanders are slowly but surely opening up room, which we expect them to do, to re-sign Pelech and Anthony Bolivier and Cizikias. And obviously, after making that trade and giving up a first-round draft pick for Paul Murray, bringing him back, and then we've been hearing a lot of stories that Parise is as good as done, and he's going to be an Islander. And we've been hearing things about Vladimir Tarasenko coming to the Islanders. If the Islanders somehow re-sign Paul Murray, bring in Parise, and bring on all their other players that they have, what we've been talking about, and bring in Vladimir Tarasenko, there's no way you can't think that the Islanders are a top 3 favorite to winning a Stanley Cup, because they will be. They're still a young team. They have one of the best promising young goaltenders in all of hockey. I think the Islanders are put in position in a very good way. They still have Varlamov, too, who is still under contract for another year. So who would have thought that? Varlamov, who was one of the best regular season goalies, and actually was one win away from taking the Islanders to a Stanley Cup, is still a part of this team and this organization. So the Islanders are positioned in such a good way. And Lou Lamoriello has not disappointed anybody. He's been here for 3 years, almost 4 years, and he's been GM of the year 2 back-to-back years, and out of the 3 years. He's been fantastic, Speedy. Absolutely fantastic.
Oh, yeah. He's been tremendous with the Islanders for sure. He's been tremendous his whole career, obviously, going back to the Devils as well, winning all those Stanley Cups. And the direction is clear for the Islanders. They want to get some other offensive players. They've done a great job shedding a lot of money between Leddy and Ladd, who I thought was impossible to trade. Leave it to the Coyotes to take that contract on, where he's pretty much done in his playing career. So the direction is definitely there. The Islanders already have that great playoff identity. 2 Eastern Conference Finals in a row, just a tough team. And they can get guys to fit in that system too, even guys that aren't good defensive players as it is. If they do bring in a Tarasenko, they do bring in some other types of wingers that maybe aren't as good defensively. Tarasenko's good defensively, but if they do bring in somebody like
two-way player, great two-way player.
So I think they can make that kind of thing work in Barry Trotz's system too, where they don't have to really just try to...
He can hit too.
Right. They can just try to force guys in where... try to be something that they're not, which is a problem the Rangers have had for a while.
I've been hearing the Rangers are interested in Tarasenko too.
Well,
I don't know why, but
I don't
they
know
are.
Why. If the Rangers are making any more trades, it better be for defense. I don't know why.
Well,
they're going after
there's
wings.
still stories coming out that they're still interested in Jack Eichel. I'm not surprised that Jack Eichel is still not traded. Buffalo is going to wait and sit on him and see what they can get for him and prove that he is 100% healthy before they move him, because teams are worried about that neck problem that Eichel has. The Rangers, you were expecting, with the money that they had going into free agency, which is the most in the NHL, I think they had the most, you would have thought that they would be more aggressive. And they really weren't. They did bring in Reeves. They brought in the kid from Tampa, Goudreau, who's a good fourth-line center, rough players. They needed some toughness. They added some toughness, especially with Reeves from the Las Vegas Knights. But there was nothing significant that you can say, wow, this is going to put the Rangers right on top, or it's going to make the Rangers a playoff team. I mean, Speedy, I was talking to a lot of Ranger fans. A lot of the reason why Chris Drury didn't go out and go on a spending spree is because he's got to pay some of these young players that he has. So what were your thoughts of the Rangers offseason so far?
Again, I'm mixed feelings right now. I thought they could have done maybe a little more with certain trades, but I like Goudreau, good face-off guy, good intensity guy with that Tampa team, going to bring some leadership, being on those Stanley Cup teams and playing with so many different types of players that I think it'll end up transitioning nicely. Finally, we have a Lightning that goes to the Rangers in reverse, not like the other way around where we just give the Lightning everybody. So yeah, I like that move. I like Ryan Reeves if he doesn't get suspended, which he's gotten suspended a bunch of times in his career already. So
he's mean.
Well, yeah, but they need that kind of thing. The Rangers don't have that type of thing.
They need a couple of those guys.
They need a lot of those guys. They haven't had that since they had Sean Avery. So you're dealing with a case where at least they're getting that kind of identity. And I don't like the Buchnevich trade. I thought
terrible.
Yeah, I thought they should have gotten more back if they're going to try to trade Buchnevich. I didn't mind shopping him, but don't sell him short like they did, because again, they have
the best player on that line.
Yeah, he had a nice year. I can see why they wanted to trade him, but they didn't get anything back for him. Sammy Blais, the third line for the Blues, and a second-round pick. That's nothing. You could have definitely done better with that. Maybe it's still kind of pending. Maybe it's still kind of incomplete with another move that they have planned, but so far it's kind of up and down, kind of average right now. Doesn't make him a playoff team definitively by any means, especially since I expect other teams to get better in that division. So
Right.
the Flyers, I think, will be better than they were last year.
It's all about goaltending for them.
Right, but they got better defensively. They were one of the big winners so
They had the
far
best
this
young
offseason.
goalie in hockey going into last year's season, and he fell off. I don't know what the hell.
Oh, he definitely did. But he should play at least double better what he did last year. I mean,
Thanks to your good old ex-Ranger coach.
Well, I didn't say he was smart. I'm not giving him any credit for Carter Hart. Carter Hart was supposed to be good before Vigneault got there, but
he
still.
was a big-time prospect.
Regardless, I expect the Flyers to bounce back and at least be better than they were last year. The Penguins are still good. And yeah, still got the top three, which I think are obvious in the Metropolitan. It's Washington. It's
and now
the
these
Islanders,
divisions
and
are coming
Carolina.
back. Now that with COVID season now over, well, we hope there's no more of these crazy divisions.
It'll be back to the regular setup, and the top three are obvious. No matter what order, it'll be Washington, the Islanders, and Carolina in that order, you would think. And then Pittsburgh, maybe they take a wild card spot. Maybe they steal a third if they could. That's what's going to make it very tough for the Rangers.
Pittsburgh's falling off, and that's why if I was Pittsburgh Penguins now, I want to rebuild. I'm trading Malkin. I'm trading Sidney Crosby. I'm trying to get as much as I can. If you could trade Sidney Crosby and get back a slew of young players, that's what I would do. You're not winning with Sid, so give Sid an opportunity to win somewhere else and send him somewhere. Maybe you send him to a Western Conference team. Maybe you send him to St. Louis. Maybe you send him to Vegas. Maybe you send him somewhere else. Maybe Colorado with some of the young players they have and get some of the young players that they have over there to ship them over to Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh needs to rebuild. They're not the same team. They won their titles before. They won their back-to-back championships, which was remarkable with no defense whatsoever. So I just think they're done. I think their reign is done. I think Sidney Crosby's reign is done.
Yeah, and the Penguins, they similar salary cap issues, too. We've seen with a lot of different teams. Chicago's now having them as well. They just had to trade Duncan Keith away, and the Penguins are going through that. Now, they're replacing players well. I think Mike Sullivan's done a nice job as a coach when it comes to bringing players up and fitting them in, but how much longer can that work? And we've seen his playoff identity be bad now all of a sudden. It looked like the Islanders in that first year with Barry Trotz kind of exposed them, and now you're seeing other teams do it, too. We saw Montreal do it. We saw the Capitals do it when they won the Stanley Cup. They finally got exposed a little bit for who they were. So I could definitely see that kind of thing with Malkin, because Malkin's been in and out with injuries. I could definitely see them trying to see what they can get back for him and just trying to rebuild, because they need a lot of defense too.
I trade Malkin. I trade Sidney Crosby. I trade that whole team. Rebuild. This team is not winning anymore. I understand he's a god over there. Sid the Kid is a god over there, and they don't trade gods. Ask Mario Lemieux. Eventually, Yager was gone, and that was crazy when Yager left. Mario Lemieux never left Pittsburgh. He was a Pittsburgh Penguin his whole career, and that's what they think. I think Sidney Crosby and Malkin is. But if you can get a slew of good young players, I'm trading a Malkin. I'm trading Crosby and rebuilding. This team is not ready to win anymore. They're a rebuilding organization. So I think it's a big mistake.
They have to be at this point with all the money they've strapped into the superstar players. And again, they're the exception to the rule of you can win with that type of big three and then you get the rest later.
How about Marc-Andre Fleury getting traded over there to Chicago and saying that he's going to retire? I don't
think he'll retire. I don't think he'll retire at least at the start of the season. Well, maybe if he feels like he's getting hurt.
He doesn't like Chicago?
No. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more if he wanted to go back to the Penguins, and maybe he's just saying that now. I don't think he'll actually retire. If he does deal with injury issues or he struggles there, maybe in the season he'll retire. But I think he'll at least play some games for Chicago. I don't think he'll play the majority of them necessarily, because their young goalie, I forget his name, was pretty good at different stretches of the year. Remember, Chicago in that division until the middle of the season really was competitive for a while.
They play well,
so,
and they have two very good players. Patrick Kane is a top 5 player in the league. I mean, who doesn't think Patrick Kane isn't as good as he is? Yep. He's another guy. If I was Chicago right now, I'm rebuilding right now, I'm trading Patrick Kane. You could get a lot back for Patrick Kane. For the Islanders, you could get two top...
I was going to say, well, you might as well explore that if you're the Islanders. Absolutely.
You could get 2 top defensive players, 2 top defensive prospects, and maybe a goaltending prospect or 2, or maybe get a couple of players on the team as well. I mean, Patrick Kane, you'll have to give up at least 3 to 4 players to land somebody like that, and quality players, not just good players.
Right.
So Patrick Kane's that good of a player. So that's something that the Islanders should look into. I don't see why the Blackhawks would keep Patrick Kane when they're not going to win. They're not ready to win anymore. They played well last year. They really did. At some points, you would have thought it, because at one point they were in first place.
At one point, they were. I don't know if they were in
They
first.
were first,
They
yeah.
were first. Okay, they were at 2 and 3 for a lot of the season in the beginning of the season, then just fell off pretty badly. Nashville started to catch up to them because Nashville was really bad at the beginning of the season. Then they started to catch up a little in the end of the season. Now the issue with Chicago is kind of the same thing with the Rangers. Now they go back to the restructured Central Division, which now you got to play the Avalanche again. Now you got to play the Blues again. So that's going to make it a lot harder because the Central is kind of like the Metropolitan in the West, where they're really good and the Pacific's kind of weak like the Atlantic is in the East. So that kind of shuffle could make it very hard for the Blackhawks to try to take that next step too, regardless of who their goalie is.
And the joke of all the NHL is the Buffalo Sabres. And they get the number 1 pick again, and they draft another top-end defenseman, and we'll see how much they ruin him. I mean, he goes back to college hockey. We'd expect that. But all in all, the kid is going to play with the Buffalo Sabres. I don't understand this team. They're too talented. How the Buffalo Sabres still can't find a way to win or be a 500 team with the talent that they have. Look at the offensive players, Speedy, they have on that roster. That is a good roster.
Yeah, they have team guys that are good on paper.
That's a good roster.
They just have a bad coaching or bad culture, whatever it is with that team. They're just
jinxed.
Doesn't work.
Why don't they hire Ted Nolan back? I mean, besides the craziness that he does on the bench, I think Ted Nolan was their best coach in the last 25, 30 years.
No, again, not really saying much. But
they also had Lindy Ruff, so that says a lot.
Lindy Ruff.
It's horrible.
Well, yeah, Lindy Ruff was.
Ask the Devil fans how much they like Lindy Ruff.
Well,
by the way, the Devils added Hamilton. What did you think about that?
I thought they overpaid him $9 million. I'm
still one of the best defensemen.
He still definitely is. I thought he was going to get more 7.5. So if the Rangers paid him $9 million, I would have thought the same way. They would have overpaid him. So I didn't realize that was.
Well, they actually overpaid Trouba. I would have definitely went after Hamilton over Trouba.
Okay, which is fair, but I think $9 million definitely was surprising, considering that the Devils need a lot of other things. They don't really need to invest into just one player as a whole. I thought they were going to take a little bit of an improvement last year, but in terms of a lot of their young players not developing well, goaltending issues now, you really have a lot to work with where the Devils are not really in position to go after one player and hope it changes the team like that too. So the Rangers, again, they needed the defense. They were in more position to do that if they were going to give that kind of money because we know that's what they need. The Devils need pretty much everything at this point.
Come on, the Devils have always done this. Ever since Lou Lamoriello has left that organization, they're trying to bring in the big splash. They bring in Subban, and what has he done? Nothing.
Right.
Every time they bring in a player, and they got arguably one of the best young prospects in all of hockey in Jack Hughes. And are they using him right? No. The Devils are a team. They're just as bad in a bad situation as the Rangers are. They're doing the opposite. The Devils is trying to build their defense. The Rangers have built their offense. If you put the Rangers and the Devils together, they're a perfect team. They're the best team in the NHL.
Well, the Rangers could have had Jack Hughes, but the Devils took him first. So.
Well, there you go. And I know, what's his name again? Fink, or whatever his name is, who's a part of our network. Filk. There we go. So I call him Fink because he stinks. Okay? There you go, Filky. The Rangers, they were so sure they were going to get Jack Hughes. He was so short. But, hey, listen, they got Capo Caco, and Capo Caco has been a bust. He really has.
Yeah,
he has
not looked good.
No.
It looked like at the beginning of the season he was showing strides, then he fell off in the second half. I don't know what's going on with him.
I think
hopefully a new coach changes that.
I think it's New York. I really do. I think it's New York.
Could be.
I think he needs to go somewhere else or even go to the Islanders, which he would never go because the Rangers would never trade him.
There's no way the Rangers are going to get rid of him.
He's perfect. He's a winger.
No, of course, but the Rangers are never trading him.
Could you imagine him with Barzal?
Who was just a second overall pick. They're going to trade him to the Islanders just to add him on. I mean, he'd be probably the third-line player with the Islanders.
Could you imagine him with Barzal? You put him with Barzal. Him, Barzal, and Anders Lee, that would be a fun line to watch, I tell you right now. And the way Barzal passes the puck, he'll put Capo Caco in the right position to score. So.
Oh, absolutely. And Capo Caco has the speed to keep up with, well, not to keep up with Barzal, but to at least play with him where, after relying on all the other veteran guys that the game passed him by and they don't have the speed anymore type of thing.